The Outlanders Journey. Tier 1, Level 0. Chapter 15. Elise, you're at the Maplewood Cafe on the corner of 27th Street. It's especially crowded at this time in the late afternoon. Students are done with their classes for the day, but they'll likely need to stay up late to study or finish their assignments. You manage to snag a small table by the window, and you crack open an old textbook on illusion spells from Professor Senos's library. You pretend to take notes, occasionally glancing at the other tables as covertly as possible in search of your brother. Your appearance today is that of a petite, half-elven woman, with a streak of silver hair as the identifying marker. It's been a couple of days since you last spoke with Amena. You have yet to return to the troop's rehearsals, and you've been spending that time focused on your research. Your brother continued to pester you every day until you finally gave in and agreed to meet with him briefly near campus. As you scribble in your notebook, a server stops by and, using a mage hand, sets down your mug of coffee. "Illusion spells, huh?" he says, looking over your shoulder. You notice he's skimming through your textbook. You cover your notebook with your arm so he doesn't see you've been scribbling nonsense. He appears half-elven, with short brown hair and a thin goatee. "Which spells are you learning?" he asks. "Invisibility," you say. "I'm having a hard time making sense of it." "Which Illusion 200 class are you in?" he asks. "I haven't seen you around. Did you recently transfer here?" "Oh, I'm not taking that class," you say. "I'm a first year. I was just curious about some second-level spells." The man smiles. "Ah, I see how it is. Trying to get ahead?" You nod. "Well, if you need any tips, my shift ends in about an hour. I can help out if you're still around." "Thanks," you say. "I appreciate it, but I'll have to run to work pretty soon."
"Oh,"
he says.
"Well, I'll still see you around. Which dorm are you in?"
Venter Hall?"
"All right. I'm over in Serene. I'll see you around then."
You nod. You're reminded of the friendly nature of the few half-elves and humans who are enrolled in the academy. You were invited to a few study sessions, none of which you went to, of course. The Human and Half-Elven Alliance Organization, or HHEAO, had about 15 active members last year. They seemed close-knit and welcoming, sharing notes and study guides to help even out the disparity in magical knowledge. You wanted to join, but you could never bring yourself to do so. Being a part of their group was, in a way, disrespectful. You continue to pretend to read your textbook while discreetly scanning the tables for Elothor. 20 minutes pass, and most of the patrons have come and gone. A few stay seated for longer, chatting with friends or studying in a group. Only one table is arranged like yours, with a lone human man sitting in the corner across the room, reading a newspaper. He is a rather rugged-looking individual, with a bushy beard, as well as long black hair down to the shoulders. You scoff. It seems Elothor has taken to the style of Harrington. He sips his coffee and, every once in a while, scratches his chin. In the briefest of moments, he brushes his hair back and tucks it behind his ear, revealing an unusually pale, silvery patch of skin on the side of his neck. He glances up and makes direct eye contact with you, then lowers his head to let the hair fall and cover his neck again. He nods at you, and you nod back. Soon, you hear the familiar voice in your head. "So," he telegraphs, flipping a page of his newspaper, "I believe you have a lot of explaining to do." You sigh. He's always been direct in a way that comes off as rude. "Hi," you reply, looking down at your book. "How have you been?"
"What's this about getting expelled?"
"Glad to hear you're well. I've been just swell myself, though your little sending interrupted a date. Thank you for that. I appreciate it."
"I advise you not to date around in the first place. You're among strangers here."
"Thank you," you telegraph. "I wouldn't have realized it if not for you."
"Stop avoiding the topic. Explain yourself. Did you think we were going to let you keep ignoring us forever?"
You tap your pen to your notebook, scribbling more gibberish. I wasn't ignoring you. I said I was doing all right.
Which was a lie.
I wasn't lying. Like I said, I am doing all right. Better than ever.
That's wonderful then. But I'd still like an explanation. Why are you no longer enrolled at Flamora? Did you think we wouldn't notice the tuition money getting returned?
In his mind, he probably sees himself as a mediator, a less intimidating figure to speak to so you don't have to face your father's wrath directly. But it's still irritating to see. You don't know if you hate that he's protecting you, or if you hate that he's betrayed you. Look at him, you think, acting as a deferential, obedient little liaison between you and your parents. Gone are the days of his own little rebellious phase. When you were 10 and he was 16, he stormed out of the house one night, adamant that he would never return home. You witnessed the panic that ensued. When your parents couldn't track him down, the news spread to the entire neighborhood, and you learned that all your half-elven neighbors were, in fact, changelings. Your family was not the only one with fake identities, and all of the close friends you thought were half-elves were taught, just like you, to never, ever reveal their true forms to anyone else outside the family. Only the adults truly knew who was who. In any normal household, running away would usually involve the local authorities, but in a secret changeling community, this was not an option, and so the neighborhood had to get involved. Having a single individual go missing, potentially revealing their true form, was a risk to everyone. Everybody came together, using their psionic abilities to contact their secret, wide-reaching network. Someone finally found him in a drunk tavern at the edge of town, disguised as a middle-aged man. They were able to find him based on the striped scarf that he wore. He cleaned up his act ever since. No longer engaged in screaming matches with your father, he is now more than willing to act on your parents' behalf when it comes to enforcing the rules upon you, scolding you for everything he himself went through. You flip a page in your textbook, sighing. It is true. I got expelled.
Why?
I messed up. That's all it was. They caught me cheating on an exam, and that was that. They have a zero-tolerance policy on academic dishonesty.
When did this happen?
The end of the winter semester. You hear a groan across the room, and you peek over to see him rubbing his forehead.
They didn't give you... Do you have another chance to enroll?
I can apply again, but it's now on my academic record.
Then you can make a different identity. That ain't difficult. I told you that being half-elven put you at greater risk of discrimination and unwanted attention anyway.
If I didn't apply as a half-elf, they wouldn't have let me in.
You don't know that.
I do know that. I know now better than ever how incompetent I am.
Then what do you want to do? Don't tell me you're still considering that Bard Conservatory.
I reckon I'd flunk out of that, too.
So, you just accept that you're a failure in everything.
You take a deep breath, blinking back your tears. How embarrassing will it look if you start crying in public? Although, in fairness, you've done exactly this before, in this very cafe. No, I just ain't meant for school, but I found a... The mental link breaks. Elithor reestablishes it again. I found a different way, you telegraph.
I asked you last year if you wanted me to come up and live close to you in case you needed the support, but you refused. I asked you if you were sure you wanted to move this far away from us on your own, and you said you were never so sure of anything else in your life. You came back only for 2 days of spring coming, and you said you made a lot of friends and you enjoyed your classes, and so you couldn't stay for long. I don't understand. How'd it come to this so quickly? Mother, she thinks it's all some horrible mistake. Sorry. Why would you cheat? What were you thinking?
Everyone cheats. The professor was being ridiculous. I was simply caught.
That doesn't mean it's acceptable.
You lied to the institution about your own integrity. Do you understand how serious of an offense that is? You know better than this. You hate when he gets all self-righteous as if he hasn't done anything wrong before. I don't need you lecturing me about academic integrity. There was a pause.
I simply wish to understand my little sister.
Well, you're certainly doing a great job.
I'm here to listen, all right?
You sigh, shaking your head. Do you remember the things you used to say to Father? No matter what I do, I'm a liar. I'm faking it. Everything is a falsity. Everything is pretend. Nothing is real. Nothing is true. Do you remember? Elithor takes a sip of his drink. Sure. I still feel that way, though I've made peace with it. Then you should understand what it's like. I moved to the fucking capital as this country bumpkin, and everybody's all regal and talks like they're reciting ancient Elvis poetry, and they're so far ahead at everything that the freshmen are taking junior level classes, and the seniors are pretty much in grad school. I couldn't keep up, no matter how hard I tried. That's why I asked to live close to you. I told you it would be hard, and you didn't believe me. And what difference would you have made? I would have been there to keep you from doing something as stupid as cheating and getting kicked out. You click your tongue. You hate him, you think. His words hurt more than anything your father can say to you. All right, you say. You win. You saw it coming. You saw me for the disaster I am, and you knew you had to keep me reined in. Fine. I'm certain mother and father are so proud of their firstborn son for being so good, but I don't need this pretentious fucking academy to give me a fancy sheet of paper saying I can wave a phallic little wand around. Don't you worry about my livelihood or my integrity again. I've lived without any of your money for months. I got a job. I'm making a good, honest living, doing respectable work with good prospects for a future career. So why don't you take that news to Father, and both of you can shove your worthless little pride up your asses. You close your notebook and textbook. You down the last of your coffee, and you stand and stuff your belongings into your backpack. As you squeeze your way through the crowd to the door, you hear the half-elven server tell you to have a nice day, and you wave and smile before shuffling away. Elithor is still nonchalantly reading his newspaper. You know he can't risk coming after you. You may not see him again for a long while. As you step out of the cafe, turning to your left to head home, you exchange the briefest of glances with him, and you see, at least you think you see, a look of remorse on his face. You turn the corner and continue ahead. It takes over an hour to get back to your apartment. You wonder what Amena is doing right now, if she's also thinking about what happened last night. You change your form back to that of Laurel. Even after all these years of shape-shifting, the pain never goes away. The reshaping of bones, the rending and restructuring of muscles and tissues and skin. Depending on how dramatic the transformation is, your entire body can feel like it's deteriorating and reconstructing itself all at once. A brief, exciting moment in which you think you might truly die. There were those late nights when you were a young teenager. You, holding your arm out over the kitchen sink, naked so as not to stain your clothes, and peeling back layer after layer of the skin on your forearm, transforming your nails into claws and digging and scraping until the pain was too unbearable, and there would be a trail of blood dripping down your elbow, chunks of flesh in the sink, and you would watch as your body regrew all of that tissue and skin as if nothing had ever happened, as if there was no start and no end to who you truly were, that it was all malleable, all of it fake, because you weren't a real person. But the ache would linger, often for weeks, like something truly had been broken. Something was there, and you came to crave this agony, seeking it out and re-injuring yourself as soon as the pain went away, because what else would you have to prove your own existence? Did you have a soul? Any kind of real personhood? Or did you come from a lineage of things that weren't truly alive? You're walking through the bucolic countryside. There's a small risk of being seen while transforming, but you've mastered the art of shifting quickly enough that it looks like a blur from far away, or like changing out of a magical disguise, something most mages know how to do. You pass by rows and rows of maize fields, pastures of cows, sheep, and pigs. The only ones who would notice you are the animals, and even then, your transformation would be partially blocked by the tall grasses. Eventually, once the apartment is in view, you find the professor walking in the opposite direction. "Heading into town now?" you ask. "I was working all day, and I lost track of time," he says. "I have a few students I need to speak with, since I missed those meetings earlier. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow." "Yes, see you then." And in a few minutes, you're finally home. You can see the white smoke billowing out of the office building chimney. Coming home to this view is now a source of comfort for you. Your room, simple but completely yours. In only a month, the weather has cooled considerably, and autumn will be arriving soon. That worry you once had about surviving the winter's cold in your dingy apartment is gone. As you step to the front door of the apartment, you reach into your pockets for the keys. They're not on you. You pat down your trousers, then set down your backpack, searching through its contents. Only then do you remember that you might have left them on your desk. You head over to the office. Since it's late, there is probably no one inside. You reach towards the door handle. The lock clicks free. You hear a crash as something heavy impacts the ground inside. You hear two unfamiliar voices, and you see fast-moving shadows through the drawn curtains. You're not sure who's supposed to be in there, if there are researchers you haven't met yet. You open the door. Before you stands a towering, hulking creature at 7 feet tall. You've never seen anyone like this before. Behind him is a knocked-over bookshelf with an opening leading downstairs. The creature stares at you, eyes wide with some sort of untamed frenzy. His shoulders are so broad and so muscular that his arms almost seem swollen, like he has some sort of terrible experiment gone wrong. An unkempt beard with an almost bovine nose. His skin is a grayish hue, covered in blackened grime. He smells rancid. Emerging from behind him, holding his hand, is a much smaller elven girl, with tawny skin and a similar dirty, disheveled appearance. She's half as tall as he is. Her cheeks are sunken, and her arms are thin to the bone, like she might collapse at any moment. She makes eye contact with you, freezing like a caught rabbit. Your heart is beating rapidly. Who are these things? Are they from the basement? You catch a glimpse of Professor Sanos' sending stone, to be used to contact him in case of an emergency. It's sitting in the corner of the room, on top of a wooden side table. A small, carved rock made of smooth red clay. Slowly you close the door behind you. It locks both ways so they won't be able to get out without you. You put your hands up. "It's all right," you say. The large creature tilts his head and takes one step forward. The impact of his foot shakes the ground. The elven girl pulls the creature's hand. "We have to go," she says in Sylvan. They're speaking in an accent you've never heard before. There's an almost ethereal tone to it. But where do we go? He sees us." The creature points at you. You're surprised he can talk. The girl gazes at you, going from a wide-eyed look of terror to a determined glare. She puts her hands up, and you realize she's about to cast a spell on you. "Turn and run," your father used to tell you. "You don't see anything, you don't hear anything. Stay out of trouble, run." The sending stones are right there. You're a good employee. You do your job well. You have more integrity than all of them. You rush towards the stones. A flash of freezing blue energy whisks toward your head, but you duck in time. It strikes the wall with a crack, leaving a dent, now coated with a layer of frost. "Stop him!" the girl shouts. You reach forward and grab the stone. In order to activate it, you need to picture Sanos on the other side. The giant creature is barreling towards you. Your heart is racing, and the mental clarity you need right now doesn't come. The quaking steps are fast approaching, and your knees buckle. Giant hands reach for you, ready to seize. "Don't kill me," you say in Sylvan. You fall to the ground, squeezing your eyes shut, putting your arms up over your head protectively. Nothing happens. You open your eyes to see this creature staring down at you, with a look of both bewilderment and guilt. He drops his arms, then twists around to the little girl. "Maya Lee," he says. "I don't want to hurt him. He looks scared." The elf girl has her finger still pointed at you, prepared to shoot what you realize is another ray of frost cantrip. She's still ready to kill you. You realize you've been gripping this sending stone so hard that your knuckles have turned white. The large creature positions himself protectively between you and the girl. He kneels, putting his arms behind his back and lowering his head so that he is around the same height as you. You notice fresh blood on his arms and shoulders. "Sorry," the creature says. His eyes soften, almost like that of a whimpering puppy. The girl, Maya Lee, was it? Still has her hands pointed at you, waiting. You glance at the creature, and then at the girl. Up close, there is an indescribable look of forlornness on both of their faces. The girl seems barely able to stand in her condition, but she's so determined by the prospect of getting out of here that she will commit murder. Really, though, she just looks scared. Her hands are quivering, unable to maintain her aim on you. It finally dawns on you the implications of the fact that she is a child. What is the professor doing with a child? You drop the stone in your hands, raising your arms in surrender. At the very least, you need to know what's going on. "I'm not your enemy," you say. "Please, tell me why you're here."